Hello, this is Stacy with Stay with Stacy Slade. We're back. We would love to do a video on something we see a lot of people ask a question on is, how do I tell if my dog is overweight? Agreed, Ash. It's a challenge, isn't it? Like Ash, most dogs would eat the food you put in front of them. And it wouldn't matter if it was 4 cups, 8 cups, 1 cup, they're gonna eat the whole thing. Like Ash is trying to eat the treats in my pocket. You're so helpful, buddy. So what I wanted to talk about was, how do you tell if your dog is overweight and how do you manage that and monitor it every day? So I have 4 dogs right now. And the important fact to me is every morning I go and feel their tummy, their loin. So this is their loin right in here. I feel their ribs and I feel this loin. And I look on top of them. Now, I can sort of show this on the camera. Let me get out of the way. Wait. Is Ash goes in quite a bit on his loin. He's not being helpful. Wait. He looks, to me, if you look on the top of him, he looks skinny. He goes in at his loin. He thinks this is fun. In at his loin. So I'm like, okay, he could get more weight. But, come here, stand. When I look, here, buddy. So he looks a little skinny when I look over the top of him, and he's a young male. He's only 2 years old. But when I go to feel his ribs, I feel that there's what I would call meat on the bones. So when you feel your dog's ribs, you want to look at your fist. The ribs should feel like your hand's going over a closed fist. So that's how the ribs should feel on a healthy dog. Now, on an emaciated dog, you're not going to feel any skin on top of that. I feel healthy skin on my skin, and I'm pushing through the hair, because that's a big issue, is people can't tell through the hair. You've got to feel those ribs. If I can't feel the ribs, if they feel more like this when I'm going over my hand, where I'm like, oh, I can feel the ribs, but I'm pushing hard to find them, your dog is probably overweight. I go back, come here, Ash. When I feel, I feel from the ribs down to the loin. If I feel the tummy and the tummy is protruding out, and actually Ash is probably a pound or so overweight. I'm probably gonna back him off on his food. He's getting currently 2 cups twice a day. I'm gonna pull that back just a little bit. And he's a big guy. So I don't follow the instructions on the bag. If you need that, go for it. But I find that it really depends on the dog, the metabolism level of your dog, how much they exercise, whether they're spayed or neutered or spayed dog, they don't metabolize as fast. And so they don't need as much food. So for example, Chase, come here, Chase. Chase is almost 9 years old. She's getting buried here. So Chase is almost 9 years old. She does not process food the way she did when she was intact. So I had to cut her back almost half of her normal food. So as a spayed female, Ash, stop digging. As a spayed female, she's getting a little over 1 cup. So like 1 1/4 cup twice a day. And I come back here and I feel her. She feels pretty good. She has a lot of hair right here. So I have to kind of get down to her ribs. And she feels pretty good to me. But she, unlike Ash, because she's an adult and she's filled out, she can look kind of chubby. And I'm like, oh, you look chubby. But then when I feel her, she feels really healthy. So that's something that with my different dogs, I have to feel them every day. Hi, guys. Don't knock down the camera. So I have to feel them each day and make sure that they're in good shape. Come here, girls. So when you're feeding your dog, don't just go into robotic mode and give them the same thing every day and don't ever check them. It also allows you to check if your dog's healthy. Maybe they're losing weight and eating the same amount. That way you want to get them to the vet and make sure that they're doing okay and they're not sick. Or they could be metabolizing things way slower and gaining weight on the same amount of food they had before, maybe it's a thyroid issue. Maybe there's something that you need to get checked out with your vet. So it's really important that you don't just mail it in with their weight and one time a year weigh them at the vet. Something you might not know is that you can take your dog into your vet at any time to weigh them. Just swing on by, say, hey, can I use the scale? Put your dog on the scale so you have a running guide of how much they weigh. And pet stores will sometimes also have scales that you can use. So it's a really good thing to keep an eye on. Maybe monthly, mark your calendar to go weigh your dog and just to be aware of it if you don't feel like you're feeling things appropriately. It is hard to do. It's something that takes some practice, but if you put your hands on your dog, every week, I do it pretty much every day, but every week, just to feel where they're at, that will help you dramatically. As I mentioned, I don't feed the amounts that they show on the bag. I feel my dog. I generally know about how much they're going to need to eat, and anything outside of that, as the dog is growing, like Ash, when he was going through a huge growth stage, he was getting more food. At like 10 months old, he was getting 6 to 7 cups a day. When he stopped growing, I could tell he was starting to put on weight. I backed his food off, and now he's getting about 2 cups twice a day. So really important for your dog's health, that they're also getting exercise, that they're getting out and getting to run and play. Sniff spots are a thing, getting out to parks, safe parks where there's friendly dogs, and just going on walks with your dogs are really important things. Making sure that they're getting enough food throughout the day, that they're getting fed at least 2 meals a day. I feed my dogs 3 meals until they're about 6-7 months old, depending on the dog, and phase that 3rd meal out. And making sure they're getting a good quality food that's not full of fillers. Bernese might be a little bit sensitive to different things, and so you might have to try different proteins. I strongly suggest fish or a novel protein they haven't had before. Some people have issues with chicken. I don't believe that Bernese are allergic to chicken. I believe that it's a sensitivity. It's also a pretty cheap protein, so I recommend fish or beef or buffalo, or there are some really unique proteins that sometimes if your dog hasn't had, you might have more success with that, so they have a sensitive gut. Happy to answer any questions on this matter. I do think it's really important that we keep our dogs in good weight and healthy to live a long life, and making sure you can feel their weight through their coat. You can't eyeball this breed because some have thicker coats, some have thinner coats. You've really got to get your hands on them and really feel them and get to know what your dog feels like. The other thing I'll say is people ask about the size of their dog and whether they should feed them more or less. You've really got to feel your dog. Chase is like 88, 89 pounds, whereas Ash is about 130 pounds. This breed can vary, especially from female to male, and there are breeders that their pedigrees aren't breeding to the standard, and they're breeding either bigger or smaller, don't have as much coat. They don't have as much coat. So you really got to know your own dog. They grow at different stages. Making sure you keep them lean when they're young is also something very important. They don't need extra weight on them when they're growing and their joints are forming. Their joints can be pretty fragile, so making sure that they stay lean and they stay healthy. Let me know if you have any questions. Please subscribe. Would love to hear feedback and how I can help you enjoy your Bernese Mountain Dog and for its entire life. Thanks again.